Peter Morris here again. So far what we've shown you is how to set up the information in Rift so that you can begin to collect information. As you can see here, we've set up some fields, we've set up some tables, we've got lookup data, and now we've set up step fields and step types which use the step data. We also set up some name metadata so that you can actually name the documents, and some hierarchy metadata. So when we look in Rift Create, here's an example where we've now got a hierarchy set up for grader and the document name, and then within that we've got the fields that go to the front and rear of procedures, and then the actual procedure steps themselves. So now what we want to do is create a template that's going to allow us to actually produce some output out of this. The way we do that is we go into settings and we add a new template, as so. When we add a template, there's 4 tabs. There's the general tab that has template name, language, the font you're using, and the page size. You can also put some CSS styling in so that it applies things like sizing of text and fonts across throughout everything, where you can actually change it in different areas. And then you have page header and footer, which is information that goes at the top and bottom of each page. And then document start information, which is what goes before all the procedures and at the end of the procedures. And then you have step types themselves. Now, because we set some step types up, each of them now has an area where you can define what the step types look like. So going back into the general tab, we'll start off, we'll name this template, and we're just going to call it maintenance procedure, the same as what we called the actual document type. But you can call this anything you want. Language is going to be English, font with Arial, page size is letter. Not going to bother with any CSS styling. We're not going to release the document because once it's released it can't be edited. However, if you want to edit it after it's been released, you just click off this release and then you can go back in and edit it again. For the page header and footer, we're going to put a table in to contain the information that's in the header. So if we look at the example, it has a box with a symbol and the name of the company, and then another box that has the equipment type and then the procedure that's being done. So going back into here, we're going to add a 1x2 box, like so, and then in here we're going to insert an image, and right underneath it the name of the company. Now of course we have some ability to resize everything, so we're going to resize this box down to a much smaller size. Going to make this bold. Like so. And then in this box here we're actually going to put the information on the equipment, and the way we do that is we go select a field, and to select a field we use the @ symbol, and the name of the equipment, the name of the field is equipment type, and I'll just put a little dash in between it, and then we're going to put the task description, like so. Obviously you can select the font size on this. We're going to go a little bit bigger, perhaps to 16, and make it bold. Also select where it sits aligned in the cell. We're going to align it to the bottom, like so. We're going to make the height about 20% of the page at this point. We can reduce that later on. Now for the footer, page footer has a page number and then a date. So again, we'll create a box, 1 by 2. Page number of total pages. And then in this box, which we will right justify, we'll put the date in, current date. Now, we have an extra line here that we want to get rid of. Now we're going to just show you here how you actually can edit the HTML that's behind all of this. So if you double click, you'll notice there's a code view. We can now remove this break by deleting it as such. Now there is no more space underneath that. We can take this cell here, and we don't want any borders around that, so we're going to say no borders. Same with this one here. On this table here, we want no borders. So that completes. I'm going to make that about 20% and this one about 5%. Like I said, we can come back in later and reduce the size of these to fine-tune it later on. So that's how you create the header footer information. Now for the document start and end, well, again we'll have a look and see what's in the document start. So we have this set of tables here that has this information in it. Obviously here there's nothing to put in. This gets written in by the person performing the procedure. And then we have some PPE required here, a picture, another table on precautions and hazards, and then a table on permits, isolations and JSAs. So let's see what we would need to do to create all that. So initially I'm going to create a table here that has this information in it. I'm going to create a 1, 2, 3, 4 line table times 1, 2, 3, 4. So a 4 by 4 table is going to go in here. So up here, we're going to create a table. We're going to create 4 by 4 table. Looking back at the template, we want task list and operation. Which we want to make cell background. Make that bold. And that bold. Let's have a look at it again. So we want now to merge these fields. So we take those, merge them, take those, merge them. That's SAP. SAP document number. Again, bold. And again, the cell is going to have a background color. Let's take a look again. Probably need to make them a little bit smaller. So we're going to make task list, operation, something like that. Then in this field here, we're going to put task list, and this one, I'm going to put operation, and this one, SAP document number. Let's have a look again and see what that's like. Looks like this is all centered. So we go into here, center align that. So everything's now centered. The thing I want to do with this table, we want to make black borders around the whole table. Now this one here, we're going to merge all those cells together, and we're just going to type that in, unit number. And it's down the bottom. So we're going to line it to the bottom and say unit number. And we're going to make that quite a bit larger, actually. Perhaps like so. And then here, same thing, we're going to say enter machine hours. Make that bold. And also make that cell grey. Same thing. Merge those together. Align to the bottom. And we're going to say hours. We're going to make that 16 as well. Now we're going to create now another table that says mandatory PPE required. Again, that's bold, and the cell color is grey. Now we're going to show you a first example of where we get some table related data. Because this information comes from a lookup table but has been put into a field, what we need to do, and we want to now display the PPE across horizontally, we have to actually select the start and end and then put the image in between. So let me show you how that works. So you go into this field and we go and find the start for the PPE. So field start PPE. Then we're going to go PPE image, and we're going to say end PPE. Now what's going to happen is, because when we're in Rift Create and we select multiple PPE, it's going to put each one that's been selected on this line until it fills them all in. So in this case we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 will get filled in across. But the maximum could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually, as you can see here, their icons across like this. So I'm going to actually make it so that you could put a potential of 10 across here. That means that each of these icons must be 10% of the width of this cell. So going back into here, to settings here, we now need to set the size of that image. So to do that, we go into code view and we find that image, and you'll notice that the image is set at 200 pixels. We're actually going to now set that at 10% of the width. Let's say 10%. And you can see there it's quite small. So maybe this would be a good time to actually see what happens now if we try and generate this document. So we're going to go, we're going to save this. We're going to go back into Rift Create, and we're going to generate the document. Right, as you can see, we need to do a couple of things. This image here is too big and we didn't set the size of that image, so we'll go and do that. This looks very good here. PPE looks great, but we don't have any box around it, so we need to do that. So going back into the settings again, we say this table has black borders. Go back into page header footer, and let's have a look and see what we need to do with this image. So if we go into code view, and you'll see that this image is set to 300 pixels. So I'm just going to make it 100% of the box it's in. Save that. Go back in here and regenerate this by just refreshing the screen. That's looking a lot better. Continuing on, let's have a look again at the example document. We now want to actually put an image in. So again, going back into here, we add another table. And we're just going to create a single box table. We're going to put the image in. Equipment image. And we want to make this image 100% of the width of the box. So going back into code view, instead of 200 pixels wide, we're going to make it 100%. Saving that. Now what we need to do is add an image so that we can actually see it. So we're going to add a new image, choose File from the desktop, submit. Next we want to add the additional tables that are in the header. So if we go back to the document, we'll have a look. We've got precautions and hazards and permits, isolations and JSAs. You'll notice this is a single cell for precautions and hazards, and there's two cells for permits, isolations and JSAs. So let's now build the tables that are necessary to put this information in. So if we get ourselves a new table, a new line, and then we're going to add a table with one column and 4 rows. The top row is for the header. Which we make bold. And we colour it. These 3 rows are for table information. Whenever you have tables that have repeating rows, you need 3 rows. The top row is for the start. So we have start table, precautions and hazards. The content goes in the middle one. Description of precautions and hazards, and the bottom one is for the end table. What's going to happen now is, as we have information built into the document, it'll repeat that line as many times as it's needed. Last thing we'll do is we'll make this black borders. The next one, we're going to again create a 4-line table, but this has 2 columns. So we're going to say 2 by 4 table now. And if we just go back to the example, it'll be permits, isolations and JSAs, and then document reference. cell a bit smaller. That will be bold. That will be bold. And again, this will be coloured. Same thing again, we're going to start permits, isolations and JSAs. Content in the middle will be description, and then in this field document reference, and then in this field will be the end, table end. So now you'll get two fields displayed with content in both of them. So now would be a good time to generate the document again and see what it looks like. Looks very good. Let's have a look now and see what is at the bottom of each document. Well, obviously we have some steps, and then below the steps we have some feedback information. It looks like it's a whole page of that. So if we're going to have a whole page of it, it's probably a good idea to put a page break before we actually put any of this information in. So let's have a look at this. So in the document end, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a page break. Let's get a few lines here. Yep. And then going back into the example, we need feedback form. So we're going to create a whole bunch of lines here in a table. Create all of these into one table. And it's going to have, looks like 2 columns. So again, I'm going to create a table like this. I'm going to make the, maybe something like, no, something like that. The very first row is just going to be merged, and it's going to say feedback form. It's going to be bold, and it's going to be coloured and centered. Then this says item and corrective actions. And then the next one down is item and work identified. So we'll go down a few lines. It's going to be grey, grey, that's grey. Bold, 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 and bold. And then the whole table should have black borders. We're going to have a very similar thing, updates form. But rather than typing all that again, we can actually just copy all this and change the words. So let me show you how we go about doing this. I would go into code view here and just go grab all of that table. Put in again. it's going to say updates form. Routine maintenance task, update, addition, deletion. And again, it's going to be bold. And then it's going to say bill of materials, update, deletion, addition, deletion. And make that bold as well. So look back in our template again, and the last thing it has is a sign-off section. So it's 2 rows, 4 columns. Supervisor name. These cells are coloured, and the whole table so we're just going to have a quick look into the HTML and make sure everything's clean. Let me get rid of that last break at the end there. There's a break in between those tables and a break in between those tables. Okay, so this completes the header and footer sections. But this concludes the first part of setting up a template. We'll continue in the next lesson.